back, everyone. Today we're going to actually fix the carb on this G366. Now Bodie, the novice lumberjack, did a real good how-to on how to swap a 460 carb. So you can check out his channel. Like I said, Bodie at the novice lumberjack. He did a whole how-to. I'm just going to highlight some of the points that I ran into along the way swapping this carb on. But I've already got the shaft ground on, and I've got our impulse all marked out. So I'll show you up close how I laid out the hole, and we'll get the holes drilled so we can actually pump some fuel to this saw, and we'll actually put it on the dyno and see what kind of power we did get out of it. But I honestly can't believe it ran as long and as okay-ish as it did without actually pumping any fuel. That was simply just drawing fuel through the nozzle and through the other orifices in the carb. It was just pulling it through on a vacuum, and we managed to idle, transition, and even have some high-speed fuel. So that was a feat in itself. But let me bring it in close and I'll show you exactly what we have, where we're at on this bigger carb. So here's our big carb. This is the choke side. This is our factory 366 shaft. You can see that ground on it to fit the larger plate. But this is where our dilemma comes in. There's no impulse hole. You can see our factory one. There's our impulse hole. There was nothing on this one. And I think that's what threw me off a little bit. One, I didn't even look. I should have. But there was no mark, no prick punch, no nothing. Which is actually, this is supposed to be over there. For whatever reason, it's over here. Nothing even lines up on this side, so I don't know why it'd be there. But I put this one in with a spring-loaded center punch. And we'll actually drill it out. So our small drill bit will come in at an angle like this. And our little bit larger drill bit will just drill flat in this way. Which you can see. You can see it's already drilled in this way. It's already drilled through that way. So that's where we're going to get our impulse on this carb. We've already got the choke. And another thing that I wanted to mention is once you get this far, make sure your spring is loaded the right way. Then you can put your plate on. Put your throttle plate, well, this is the choke plate. Put your choke plate in there. Get it all lined up. Let me set it down here. Now these plates are not true round, so they fit the bore best in one little spot. So there's that. Just lightly start it, and then you need to make sure that you have full function of the shaft before you set it home. Which you can see that seemed to settle in just right, because otherwise if you have your shaft halfway and you tighten the plate, it might not be in the right spot. But now we've got our choke plate in there. Now we'll flip it over and get our impulse drilled. Just going to hang it over. And the way that I line this impulse up, so I just made a paper gasket over the factory carb, laid it out on this one, then use our spring-loaded center punch to put a little divot in there. But this is going to take the larger drill bit. So we'll get it set up in our handy dandy drill press. Just like that, just like that. Now we don't need to go super deep, so I'll probably stop and check it a time or two. So that should do for that one. Now we'll put our smaller one in. We gotta get it on that angle there. And we're going to try and just hit it right here. That's what we're going to try. Wish me luck. There we go. Now we have impulse. Let me go clean this all out real good. And we'll come back, put it together. Right there. We finally got one. Now we'll be able to actually pump the fuel. So we'll have a choke that works now. And throttle. So we can actually get this put on and see what kind of power just a carb swap does. Then there's another trick or two that I want to try. And maybe we'll even get to a muffler mod. So this will be step one. How much does a larger carburetor really help if you're undercarbed? So let me get this put back together and we'll find out. There's our gasket. Let's put our drill bits back so we don't lose them. Now this drill index here, right here, this is a 1 through 60 drill index. And if you're going to be playing with carbs, definitely recommend picking up a drill index like this. Then they go even smaller, like a 60 through 80 for the micro drills. But this has been a great set to have for even just a little bit of fiddling I have done. Alright, so we got our carb all ready. Let's get our throttle rod hooked back up here. See if we can remember how to do it. Now our impulse will line up. Our throttle rod will be right. I just gotta remember how all these other pieces go back in. I want to say that goes like that. Let me try and snap this cover piece back on. Alright, that all looks right there. We tightened all of our carb bolts back up. Let's put our choke piece in. Oh, yep, full choke. Half choke, throttle lock. Alright, looks like everything is the way it's supposed to be. I'm going to add a little bit more of a crimp on this connector here. Hopefully that helps it stay just a little bit better. It was a little loose. I don't know if I jarred it pulling it out. But we're good there. Now one thing we do want to do, since it wasn't pumping before, we want to go back to our 1-to-1 carb settings. Because I was way out. Let me see if this piece helps line up or not. Half, 1. Guess that helps me line up a little bit. Half, 1. I'm sure the idle needs to be way out. Alright. So we will leave that grommet in. That'll help us out. Get that piece on. We'll get our elbow put back on. So it's the little things like that. If you're in a hurry, you can miss them. Even if you know you need it. All these diaphragm carbs, they need an impulse of some sort. But sometimes that happens. Let's see, double check. Choke. Half choke. Good. Off. Nice. Alright, everything looks good. Put our super duper filter on here. And we'll see if it fires back up. Alright, I'll top it off with fuel real quick just so we know we got a full tank and we're not running out. Okay, there we go. We got it all topped off with our 40-to-1 Dominator. No, I don't know. Like I said, I've just seen really good things from that Dominator. People ask all the time, why Dominator? I just like what I see from it. So, hopefully it fires back off and we'll get it put back on the dyno and we can actually see what kind of power gain we got just from our carb swap. And like I said, I got a couple other little things I like to do with these models that may or may not help. This one we're going to take a step by step. So if you have any other ideas that you want with these, this is the one that we're going to do, that step by step mod that anybody can do. So right now, that carburetor swap didn't need much more than some hand tools, drill. I mean, you could do with a file or the little Dremel setup to widen that shaft for the choke plate. But so far, we're just at the hand tool stage. Don't even need anything exotic. So if you guys have an idea for more power or something that you think might pep it up, leave a comment and let me know. And if you like these videos, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. That does help the whole YouTube thing. I'd really appreciate it. Alright, we'll get this fired up, I hope. Somebody asked that in the last video too, said it might not be oiling that good. So let's double check. We do have bar oil. Let's put it to our max setting. Okay. Looks like it is on the max setting, so let's see what kind of oiling we are getting. There is oil in the tank. Let me fire it back off. Do that every time. So it is indeed oiling. I mean, it's not shooting a ton, but it's oiling. So we'll get this mounted up on the dyno, see what kind of power it makes with the large carb. So here we have our big carb all swapped on, and we're going to see what kind of power we can actually make when we can fuel this larger carb's airflow. So that run wasn't too awful bad there. But what we'll do is we'll take this cover off. Wow. So we'll take the cover off, take the air filter off, and we'll take this elbow off. And I'll show you what we got to do with this elbow. And we'll see if that impacts the power at all. We got a little bump from the carburetor alone. So we'll see if a little bit more airflow helps yet. Let me set those there. So right here, this is the filter elbow. That's what holds our cover on, our filter on. We're going to open up this area here so it can get a straight shot in. So let me go do that real quick, and then we'll put it back on. Alright, here's what we got. I just opened it up real quick. So you can see it's a straight shot right into the carb bore now. So we'll get this put back on. And we'll see if that nets us any more power again. Now eventually, we're going to get to a point where we're going to run out of... Hey, give me that back. We're going to get to a point where we're running out of muffler. There's not enough muffler outlet to scavenge any more air through. So we're getting more air in. The larger carb did help. We'll see that on the graph. But eventually we got to get all that air back out. So that's when a muffler mod's going to become even more important. Alright, there's that. We'll fire this back up and see what we get for round 2. Alright, so not too bad. Now I think we're just going to do a real quick and dirty muffler mod right there. I'll pull it off, throw a hole in it, and that is anything anybody can do. Alright, so we just went and popped a nice little hole in there. And it's not super huge, probably 3/8 inch across, 3/4 inch tall. Nice little outlet, but this still has the cage and baffling and everything inside. So this is just a quick, easy muffler mod. And we'll still be able to cover it up with one of our deflectors. Which, if you're doing muffler mods, you can get our deflectors on the website, worksauce.com. We have a few different sizes that fit most every muffler, but I'll show you next time actually splitting one of these mufflers open. And if people are interested, we can try more or less outlet, no muffler. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment on the muffler outlet size, what you think. If you want to try just deflectors, tubes, wide open, let me know on our mild build here. But we'll get this put on real quick and see if we can keep making power one baby step at a time. You can kind of see it tucked in there. Like I said, we'll be able to put a deflector on it and blow it all forward once we get that far. But for now, this is just to test the outlet size. Oh yeah, it definitely likes to breathe, so I think we're on the right track with that. But I'll get all these graphs printed out and we'll go talk about it on the bench. Our saw definitely runs better now that it's getting the fuel it was asking for. So we got our big carb, we modified the filter base, and we added an extra hole to the muffler. But these are all things that can be done to most any saw. Now the filter elbow thing, that really just applies to these 361s and these 366 clones, because the filter still encapsulates that whole area. A lot of saws would like it if you could go straight into the carb like that, but if you do so, you're completely bypassing the filter. But on these 361s, you'll see we gained a little bit there, and we got this muffler. So our factory muffler has got a cage and a baffle and everything inside. So we did open up the little hole in the muffler that you see, but we still have this factory cage and baffle inside. So what we'll do next time, we'll open up. I'll show you how to open up and split these mufflers. There's two ways to do it. You can either grind this seam off and weld the whole thing up, or you can actually warm it up and pry it open with a screwdriver, and then they split apart just like so, two pieces. Then you can grind out this cage here. But we got our muffler mod, bigger carb, fully functional now that we got it flowing fuel. We had to add those holes, so don't forget to drill those holes or find a carb that actually has the spots. I believe Bodie mentioned some of the aftermarket carbs are prick punched right in the spot to drill it, and all you gotta do is add the one hole. So you can check out his video on that. But this is where we're at with this, and I'd like to know where you guys would like to see it go. How far do you want to go with it? What other things do we want to try? Because we got a perfectly good test mule here from the guys at Blue Saws. So if you're looking to pick up a clone saw, definitely check out the guys at bluesaws.com. And I will say these clones are a great way to get into the hobby. Now if you want something to actually go and work, I don't know if I could recommend them for that. I know I'm still not going to be porting clone saws for customers or aftermarket cylinders. I'm OEM only. But since we're doing the whole Sawfest thing, they have a whole class with these clones. That's the main reason we're messing around. And I figure since we're doing them anyway, we can use them as teaching tools for other people looking to get into the hobby, looking to get into the sport of chainsaws, or looking to get into the industry of either building saws or running saws. Like I said, I plan on running them a bit more, so we'll definitely get some time on these clone saws, as well as fix some things and try and push some power out of our racers. So just leave a comment and let me know anything else you want to see on these saws, and we'll try and incorporate it. I've got a couple ideas of what I want to try and do to get more power out of this cylinder that everybody can do, but I'm not sure how far everybody wants to see it pushed. Do you want to see full machine work? Do you want to see just like a gasket delete? Let me know exactly where you want to see this build go, because my goal with this is something that anybody can do themselves. So let's take a look at the graph. I'll show you the different power runs, and we'll come back, and depending on what kind of feedback we get, what you guys want to see, will dictate what happens next time we see this saw. That's what we ended up with. Here's our baseline, 5.07, and then we swapped on our big carb. Big carb only. We bumped it up 5.18, so not a huge difference, just swapping the carb alone. Then we did our filter mod where we opened up that elbow, so that really let that carb breathe. We bumped that up to 5.34 horse, 3.19 foot-pounds. So just swapping the carb alone didn't really gain us a whole lot, but opening up that filter definitely helped. And then our blue line up top, that is with that little bitty muffler mod. We gained almost 9.5% above where we started, just by, well, with all three of these steps combined, about 10% from where we started. So that's not horrible, but you can see that 10% definitely over the whole range. So that's noticeable power. You know, we're holding stock type power from, we'll say 8,000 all the way up to 11.2. You know, so that's 3,000 RPM plus. So that's a good 3,000 RPM plus that is holding stock power or above with these three steps together. So if you have one of these 361s or one of these 361 clones, the G366, these are the stepping stones to more power. So these are the stepping stones to more power if you have one of these steels or the steel clones, the 361 or the G366. So we got step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And I need you guys to let me know what step 5 is going to be. How are we going to port this cylinder, and what do you want to see to get more everyday power out of this saw? Well, hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know if you did. Let me know if you didn't. And as always, thanks a lot, everyone.